Hey everyone. So I just got done watching Thor Love and Thunder. It's a pretty decent movie. The acting's really good. Um, so I never planned on watching this movie because of all the bad reviews and a lot of what people have been saying about it. But I thought the movie was alright. It's no, it's not great, but it's a fun movie. It's decent. I think it came out in summer. It's a pretty decent summer movie. Actually, I actually liked it more than Top Gun. And from what I understand, this movie flopped pretty hard at the box office. I don't even know if it made its money back. But yeah, it flopped pretty hard at the box office, and I liked it more than Maverick. So it's been out for a while. I think I'll spoil it just so I get my thoughts across. The short version is the short version of the review is I thought the acting was great, the visuals are great, but I didn't review. I'm not gonna review the visuals, as that's just them showing off their money, basically. Yeah, the movie looks great, but it was made by a company who controls like 6 other companies, so you expect good visuals. And there's a lot of stuff in the movie. There's a lot of bad ideas in this movie, definitely. It's not a perfect movie. There's a lot of bad ideas. And I feel like the more you understand the lore, I feel like the bigger the fan you are of the movies, the worse this gets. And I'll explain that later. But yeah, I feel like the more you understand Thor and everything, the worse this movie gets, because it makes a lot of changes which make no sense, and it's pretty dumb. So I'll start out by saying the villain was a lot better than I thought it'd be. Basically, it's just a guy who gets this sword, who makes him really powerful enough to fight all the Asgardians at once. So the sword is pretty something else. It was called like the Shadow Sword or something. They only said the name of the sword like twice, so I don't remember it too well. But it was like the Shadow Sword or the Spectre Sword, and it made whoever holding it like a Asgardian level. It feels kind of weird that this guy who's been killing gods for who knows how long just kind of shows up. You'd think there'd be like rumors about him, but he just kind of shows up, and people are just now finding out about him. So that's kind of weird. In Guardians of the Galaxy, when they went around talking to people, you would hear like rumors of like the bad guys doing stuff, like the pirates and Thanos and all that. So I like that part of the movie where you can hear like people in the background talking about the stuff going on in the movies, which is pretty nice. I'm never a big fan of a guy just showing up. That's kind of annoying. So the good parts about this movie, I thought the fight scenes were great. There was a lot of bad ideas in the fight scenes, but they were overall fun to watch. This is a fun movie. It's just full of weird ideas. So it was made by Taika Waititi, who I'm a big fan of after watching his vampire movies back in like 2008. So I've been a fan of him for a while. And something I discovered is he really does not do any research when he does movies, which is funny because he's like a foreigner, so you expect him to do like a little bit of research, but no, he doesn't really do research when he does movies. I feel like this movie would be a lot better if there was any research done on it, because it just has weird ideas. So it's Love and Thunder. It's not really about Thor, like at all. It's really about the other characters getting their, time in the spotlight. So I wouldn't really call it like a Thor movie. He's in every scene, but it's mostly just him doing normal stuff. So I wouldn't really call it a Thor movie. So the movie, I'll recap the story because it'll make things a lot easier for me. So I'll talk about the story. And with my headache going on, I can't recall it word for word, even though I just saw the movie. So the movie starts out with this god of light killing this sword user, the Spectre sword user, and then Gore walks up, and the sword calls to him or whatever, and gives him powers, and he kills the god of light, which I guess he wasn't very important because the world went on just fine without him. And his daughter dies of starvation, I guess. So, and they mention, he mentions the god became a lot weaker when no one was worshipping him. So, that's something to remember. The gods, became weaker when they stopped being worshipped. That's something to remember later on. Then you see Thor running around with the Guardians like in Infinity War, and they're running around saving people, and Thor is kind of in a weird mood where he's saving people but he doesn't really care. He destroys stuff and shows off, and he's causing a lot more damage than good, but he's so powerful that you kind of need him on your team. And then it goes to the new Asgardian town, which they turn into a amusement park. So I'm guessing a lot of time has passed between Infinity War and this movie. Because at the end of the last Thor movie, they just found a new place to call home. And in this movie, everything's in a music park. And even with superhuman strength and everything, it would probably still take a while to make it a park. So I'm guessing a lot of time has passed. And I guess Thor has been in a weird mood just the whole time. And then the you find out his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend has cancer and it's stage 4. People usually puke blood and are in a lot of pain during stage 4 cancer. But she just kind of laughs it off and walks around just fine. But, it's a movie. And then she goes to the Asgardians, and I guess she is a chosen one, and the hammer chooses her, and she fixes the hammer and becomes a new Thor. I guess whoever has the hammer is Thor, because everyone was calling her Thor, so now there's 2 Thors, I guess, which is weird. And they kept calling the girl who controls the town king when really she should be a queen. But whatever. I guess girl leaders are now kings, which is weird. The whole story of his ex-girlfriend becoming Thor is just weird, and it feels incredibly forced. I thought she did a good acting job, and she did a good job acting, and I thought the writing was decent, but it's just so incredibly forced. I did watch some of the interviews, and apparently in the comics, that's what actually happens. Is she gets cancer, and she gets the hammer, and she comes Thor. I guess whoever has the hammer gets the. I guess if you get the hammer, you get the new outfit and the long hair. She actually has short hair, but the hammer gives her incredibly long hair, which is weird. And I think this movie was made completely ignoring the first one. Is in the first Thor movie, they established the armor and the hammer are two different things. But in this movie, I guess whoever has the hammer gets the armor, which is weird. And I guess the Stormbreaker also gives him armor, which is weird. But I guess they're both created by stars, so I guess they both have the power to give people armor. I guess there's not a lot of difference between Stormbreaker and the hammer. I guess they're basically the same weapon, but one's an axe and one's a hammer. They have the same powers and everything, so they seem to be the same weapon pretty much. So yeah, when she has the hammer, her cancer goes away, and she's totally fine. And everyone calls her like a Viking now because she has a hammer, which is weird. And the first day she gets the hammer, the God Butcher shows up with his minions, and you see her absolutely destroying all of them. I guess they can get killed by anything. They're not very strong. It's hard to tell how strong they are. They were seen destroying a car. I guess for Asgardians, everyone is car level, so it's hard to tell. So yeah, she runs around and kills everything in the hammer, and even starts doing like flips and tricks and stuff. Even though I know she's seen a lot of fighting, but I don't think she ever really fought. I don't know her fighting background. I know she's like a very popular scientist, and for a very popular scientist, she acts really dumb in this movie. Like she gets surprised when Thor starts talking about Zeus, and then she goes to meet Zeus, and she's surprised on how he acts. And I wasn't, because there's a lot of stories about Zeus, so I'm not sure why she was surprised. For a scientist, she acts really dumb, and she is just as good as a fighter, if not a better fighter than Thor, who's like, I forget how old Thor is, but he's got to be like 1,000, 2,000 years old, right? He's pretty old. And she's running around being a better fighter than him. I guess the powers make you a better fighter, which is dumb. The hammer making you a better fighter is just dumb, and it makes the entire events of the first movie kind of pointless. In the first movie, he has to train to master his powers. But in this movie, they just prove that, as long as you have the hammer, you just have powers. You don't have to train. So it kind of makes the first movie obsolete. Which again, the more you know about Thor and the movies, the more I think you won't like this. So yeah, it's frustrating at times. And then Gore, the God Killer, captures the children because he starts losing a fight. So he kidnaps the children and takes them to like his dimension. And in his dimension, he's a lot stronger. So it's just a way of giving him an edge in the fight. And after that, I think they start making jokes and stuff about the kids being gone or something like that. And the rock guy starts making jokes, and it was pretty weird. It's a really weird movie, but it's a fun movie. So after that, he talks about getting an army in order to fight the stronger, the God Butcher who's killing everybody. They show the God Killer killing like this mountain god. Or I don't know if he's a mountain god or what, but he was like bigger than the mountains, and they show like his dead body. And Gore the God Killer is like this tiny guy who can sometimes teleport. That's a fight I would like to see. This tiny guy taking out like this mountain dude on his own turf. So he didn't have this big advantage, and he fights like this big mountain guy. I guess he's killing the gods because he was wronged by them. And that sort of makes sense. There's a lot of gods out there. Like half the gods in mythology are pretty much jerks. They're not jerks 24/7, but they do start to do jerky things. And half the gods in mythology, mostly the demigods, the weaker ones, the minor gods, most of the minor gods are pretty nice. So really it's the actual gods that are mean, and the weaker gods are nice. And like I said, when they get worshipped, they usually get stronger. So the more popular gods are usually the stronger ones. So they go to the place of the gods, which is pretty frustrating, just his existence. There's this place where all the gods hang out at, which is weird because you would think the gods would be busy doing, like the god of marriage would be busy marrying people, and the god of like harvest would be out there harvesting stuff, and the god of the sun would be busy making sure the sun is still there. You think the gods would be busy, but I guess not. They're just at this big city full of the gods and demigods from all religions. I guess all religions are real now, and I guess all the gods are, it's a Marvel movie, so they can only show you stuff that's owned by Marvel. So I guess all the gods in history are Marvel property, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but it seems like all the gods are Marvel property. From what I understand, there's actually a Jesus Christ comic book. So I don't know if it's Marvel or DC, but I guess someone has the rights to Jesus Christ. There's a Jesus Christ comic book, so I guess someone owns the rights to him. So, anyways, they go find a meeting of Zeus, and they say Zeus is the oldest and wisest god there is, which kind of shows you how much research he did. Saying Zeus is the oldest god, that's kind of a stretch. And saying Zeus is the smartest god, which is kind of a stretch. Zeus makes mistakes all the time in his books. He's not perfect. He makes mistakes all the time. What makes Zeus scary is you pretty much can't beat him in a fight. He's unstoppable in a fight, and he's got curses and stuff, so you can curse people. That's what made Zeus scary. He made mistakes all the time, kind of like Odin. Odin made mistakes all the time in his books. In one of the movies, they even addressed this, where the reason Odin was king of the 9 realms was because he absolutely just slaughtered everybody. That's how he became king of the 9 realms, was because he just slaughtered everybody. I think it was in the second Thor movie. I don't know if you guys remember that. But yeah, that kind of shows you how much research they did, saying Zeus was the strongest and wisest of them all. In Greek mythology, yeah, but something to remember is that there was Titans. The Titans were the father of the gods. So it was Titans, and then there was gods. And there was another creature in between, but I can't remember the name of it. Titans weren't the first things to walk the planet. There was another creature, but I can't remember. They were abominations that no one really wanted. But that's a story for another day, I guess. So yeah, they say Zeus is the strongest, the strongest god, and the way they get into their, you would think Thor would be welcome there, because he is a demigod, so you think he would count, and he does bring along his minions, and you see Zeus alongside his minions, so you think Thor would be welcomed in the city of the gods. And he knew where it was, so he clearly had been there before. But anyways, they put on disguises for some reason. And the girl says they got these disguises from the color gods. I don't know what the color gods are, but basically she kills the color gods and takes their outfits just for a disguise. So they're trying to stop this god killer, and the first thing they do is kill the color gods, which is just a throwaway. It's like a throwaway line. So that's pretty weird. And then Thor is trying to explain to the girls that Zeus is really cool, which should be pretty well known. There's a bunch of temples dedicated to Thor. Or not Zeus. There's a bunch of temples dedicated to Zeus. He should be pretty well known. So Zeus says 2 things. Zeus says, we gotta plan out the orgy, which is actually accurate. Greeks and Romans had orgies all the time, but the girls thought it was weird. And the Valkyrie girl, I'm pretty sure she did orgies too, because in the flashbacks, and she's always flirting with people too, right? So I'm not sure why she was grossed out by that. That seemed to be a thing she'd be into. And the second thing he says is the god with the most sacrifices gets a trophy this year, which is also accurate. Pretty much every god out there wants sacrifices. They even showed the Aztec gods and the native gods. I don't know if the Native Americans had gods, but they did worship the Great Spirit. But they show the Native Americans and the Aztecs, and they usually sacrifice stuff. It was not always people, but they always sacrifice stuff. And I guess Zeus sacrificing people was enough to make him a bad guy. Zeus in this movie is completely fair, and he even gives Thor like 3 chances. But for some reason, he's the bad guy. I guess the people who made this movie researched the gods and were like, yeah, the gods demanded sacrifices and did weird stuff, and they partied all the time, which was true. And I guess that made them bad guys. I guess the whole, bringing people water, bringing people food, bringing people love and protection, I guess those things weren't good enough to make them good guys. Giving people artifacts and sometimes even a city, giving people like powers. The gods would sometimes give people powers, like Achilles. Achilles was just a normal guy that they gave powers to. But I guess the whole sacrifice thing was enough to make the gods bad guys. It's pretty frustrating. The Greek gods, I'm pretty sure the Greek gods have been around longer than any other god out there. But I guess today they're bad guys. I don't know. It's weird. It's very, very weird. Anyways, the next thing that happens is they decide to kill Zeus because they want his weapon. And I guess anyone can use his weapon. It's not, you think the strongest weapon ever made, you think it would have like a protection on it, like the moment you touch it. Like Pandora's box was really well guarded, and like anyone who got near it got like bad stuff happened to them. But I guess anyone can pick up the strongest god weapon and be fine. It didn't give you a curse. It didn't give you a curse, and I guess any religion can use it. I guess you can use one religious weapon and give it to another religion. That's fine. The whole Zeus thing just really bothered me, but it was played out for fun. And and it is Marvel that we're talking about. This is the same Marvel who really shits on male characters of the newest TV shows. And this is the same Marvel who completely shits on the Hulk. The Hulk had one movie, while Thor had like a bunch. This is the same Marvel who shits on Thor. This is the same Marvel who shits on Loki. I guess Loki's like a joke now. And not a good joke, like a bad joke. So them killing off the Zeus, I'm not too bothered by it. It is the Marvel Zeus. It's not the real Zeus. With him dead, I guess, that wouldn't bring the whole Greek mythology into anarchy. It's not like people would be pissed if their favorite, he was the most popular god for a reason. I guess people are not going to get pissed if he died. Even his followers didn't really react. And the City of the Gods, who clearly respect Zeus because he was in charge, they didn't react either from his death. So the whole scene with the City of the Gods felt really forced, and it was pretty weird. Also, the idea of all these gods being real kind of makes the other movies feel weird. It's like, if the gods are real, They could have helped out with the other movies, but whatever. That's the kind of thing that annoys me about new characters that show up out of nowhere. These new powerful characters that show up out of nowhere, who have been alive for years. They could have helped out with the other movies, but I guess it's whatever. So now that they have Zeus's weapon, they go on planning the fight, the God Killer, and they travel through space to go fight the God Killer. And while they're traveling through space, they try to bond. The characters try the bond. They known each other for like 10 years or more. But they try bonding on this boat ride, and it's like the worst thing ever. Everything feels forced, and the writing just takes a huge drop. And the scene where they try to bond is just really, really bad. I'd recommend just skipping that. It's just really, really bad. But they do show up at the God Killer's place, and they try to fight him. And the first thing that happens is they get trapped by his powers, and they can't move. And then later, they fight his and then they get out of that. They can't move from his powers, but then they get out of it. And then they go fight his minions, and his minions die like nothing. But his minions were strong enough to kill the gods, I guess. But his minions died like nothing. And then they go fight the actual God Killer. And it was a pretty good fight. It was really interesting. He uses a straight sword, and he keeps holding it by the blade. And he kept hitting people with other parts of the sword, like the pommel and like the hilt. And he kept holding it by like the blade, and he kept using it like kind of like a staff. He kept using both ends of the sword, which was pretty interesting. The fights were actually really good. The writing was not that good, but the fights were good. Like I said, this is a fun movie. I think this is a fun movie, honestly. The fights were good. I'm not gonna complain about the fights. The one thing that annoyed me was the ex-girlfriend Thor was using the hammer and doing all these tricks and stuff. And you have to remember, she's only been 4. I guess anyone with the hammer is 4. And she's only been 4 for like an hour. And she's already fighting better than most characters in the movies, which is really just frustrating. And it takes a really huge shit on the hero's journey. The journey of learning your mistakes and getting better. It really just shits on that. It really shits on just character development and just good writing in general. So, I'm not a huge fan of that. I know Marvel is about powers and stuff, but the idea of powers making you a good fighter, that just seems like a huge shit on good writing. But whatever. This is the same Marvel that shits on Loki, so it's whatever. But yeah, the fights are fun to watch. You can start to see Thor, the guy, get his groove back, and the fights are pretty good. But they do end up... So what happened is, one of them actually gets hurt during the fights of the God Killer and his minion, and they decide to leave. They decided to go away because one of them got like scratched. So, and he knows this God Killer just recently kidnapped all the children who were descendants of the gods, right? So they have like god blood in them. So, but one of the people one of his allies gets scratched, so he decided to leave the fight. Before the fight started, they straight up say, I'm totally okay with dying in this fight, because dying dying in this fight is honorable, and it's a good death. But one of his friends gets scratched, and they just get out of there. Now, what's important to remember is for both of them are supposed to be demigods. They're not actually supposed to be that strong. They're demigods. They're not supposed to be as strong as actual gods. And this movie makes it seem like Thor is just unstoppable. Both of them. So that's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying how strong Thor is, especially for like a demigod. But it is Marvel Thor. It's not the actual Thor, so it's whatever, I guess. It is Marvel Thor. Anyways, one of his allies gets scratched. The ally who said she was totally okay with dying in battle. So they decide to leave the fight, which didn't make any sense to me. That was the moment my brain really just turned off. The moment they decided to leave the fight. And the reason they have to win that fight is because Gore, the god butcher, found a way to kill all the gods by making a wish. There's this wish-giving thing that lets him kill all the gods instantly. So they have to win that fight, or all the gods get killed. And I guess that'd be the end of his character, because he won. He killed all the gods. And Thor was totally okay with killing Zeus. Like, they didn't talk about that at all. They just were like, yeah, we killed Zeus. And he even talked to the children about it. So screw Greek mythology. Only Norse mythology is cool now. So yeah, they decided to leave, and of course, they screw up. So Thor loses his Stormbreaker axe, and the girl, her cancer comes back. Well, she always had cancer, but her cancer come back, and she, starts dying again. And the girl gets scratched, says she's handicapped now, and she decided that instead of fighting, she'd rather be king. It still feels weird calling a girl king, but whatever. They don't call Queen Elizabeth king. They call her the queen. But whatever. The king girl decides not to fight anymore. She's retired after getting hit. And they do hit Gore with the Zeus Thunderbolt, and it does nothing. So I guess he's invincible, I guess. The Spectre sword made him invincible. And before he got the sword, I'm pretty sure he was just a normal guy. But after getting the sword, he becomes stronger than the gods. So it feels very forced. Was what I'm trying to get at. It's pretty much a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie feels very forced. And Thor and the girl Thor decide to get back together and start dating again. She's near death, but he finds the hots for her. In the first movie, he would go on all these parties and have in the first movie, he would go to all these drinking parties and have all these girls over. But I guess the scientist girl is the one he really cares about. So yeah, she starts losing her power and gets sick again, and the king girl decides to retire. So Thor grabs the Zeus Thunderbolt and decides to go fight the God Butcher by himself. and the God Butcher goes to the Wish area, so he doesn't have that advantage anymore. It's a really good fight. I'd recommend watching that. It's probably the best part of the movie, even though it's still very frustrating seeing someone who's been fighting for like a day, beat up a God killer. That's pretty frustrating, but it's whatever. This movie bombed, so I guess that makes me feel a little bit better. Anyways, so my review is starting to come almost as long as the movie, so that's not very good. So Zeus goes to the wishing area, or Thor goes to the wishing area, and he frees the kids. It doesn't make a lot of sense that the kids are there. The kids were used so he would get the weapon, and now that he's got the weapon, he doesn't really need the kids anymore. But instead of putting him, like, he had him in a cage, which worked perfectly fine. But then he decided to let the kids out of the cage and just let them walk around. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He hates the gods. He's shown killing them, and doesn't feel bad about it. And then these kids who are related to the gods, he kidnaps them, and then he doesn't need them anymore. And it goes downhill from here. It really does. So Thor frees the kids and decides to give the kids his powers, which I think is a bit fine. I don't know if Thor gave his powers before in the other movies. He might have, honestly. He decides to give kids his powers, and the kids who have no fighting experience, the kids end up like one-shotting the God Killer minions, who I'm guessing are around car level. If I had to guess, the minions are around car level, and they start like one-shotting them, which kind of makes sense because these are God children, and they're being amped up by Thor. So I guess them being car level is kind of fine. It's a really stupid fight scene, seeing these children beat up like these 20 feet minions, but it's fine, I guess. And then Thor decides to have a one-on-one with the God Butcher, and he loses. Even with Zeus's lightning bolt, he hits the God Butcher with the Zeus lightning bolt, and he's totally fine. So I guess he could have killed Zeus if he really wanted to. And Thor loses, and of course he gets bailed out by his girlfriend, because of course in Marvel the girl characters are stronger than the guy characters. The guys with like 2,000 years of experience are of course weaker than the girls who have like 2 days of experience. The girls with 2 days of experience are obviously stronger. So she helps fight the God Killer, and because he's distracted with the kids, which is fair, and he's distracted with the two, he's fighting two demigods at the same time, and he starts losing, which is, fair, I guess. And then the girl Thor gets scratched up. I don't remember seeing that, but she gets like scratched up, and Thor starts to the guy Thor starts to like panic. because he starts to care about her again. And I think during this panic, he opens up the gate that lets him grant wishes. And during this fight, the Spectre sword gets broken, and Gore's immortality goes away. So he starts becoming mortal again. And because his immortality goes away, he starts dying like instantly. And the girl 4 got injured, and you combine that with her cancer, she actually dies. So no more girl 4. This was really a movie about her. It wasn't a movie about the guy 4. It was really a movie about the girl 4. That's what this movie was really about. And then Gore goes to make a wish to kill all the gods, and 4 is like, why don't you wish for your daughter to come back? Which I guess Gore has never thought of, even though he's probably hundreds of years old, maybe even more than that. I don't know how old he is, but he was around during the time where worship was a big thing. I mean, worship is still a big thing, but he was alive back when worship was a really, really big thing. So he must be pretty old, and I guess this is the first time he thought of his daughter, using his daughter to he's bringing back his daughter with the wish, which is weird because people come back all the time in Marvel. You know, everyone who dies in Marvel just comes back. So he decides to use his wish to bring back his daughter, even though there's a million things in Marvel that could have brought his daughter back. Like, he could have used, like, anything. You know, with the Greek gods being real, he probably could have went to Hades and could have asked Hades for his daughter back. But whatever. I'm overthinking this. Also, Gore, the God Killer, says he's totally okay with his daughter being dead because he didn't want her living in a world with the gods. But then he wanted to see her one more time before he died. So he decided to use that wish to bring his daughter back. And then he asked the guy to raise his wish daughter, which is a bit weird. I don't know if it's his actual daughter or if it's like a wish daughter. I don't know the rules about that. But yeah, he decided to not kill all gods because the gods. He decides not to kill all the gods, even though he could have, because the gods broke his sword, which made him mortal again. So he hated the gods for hundreds of years, and the gods destroyed his sword, which made him, start dying. And instead of hating the gods who betrayed him and destroyed his sword, he decides to save his daughter and let his... He even says to the gods to raise my daughter, even though he doesn't want his daughter to live in a world of gods. He's like, yeah, gods, can you go raise my daughter for me? It's a really dumb ending. But I guess the guy 4 is now single again because, his ex-girlfriend died. And he's a dad now. So I guess that's the whole point of the movie, was for him to become a dad. And I guess he got his hammer back because the girl died. And she also fixed it. I don't know if you guys remember, but the hammer was broken, and she fixed it. That's why it's in like it has those cracks on there. But yeah, and then the movie ends. So it's a very weird movie with a lot of bad ideas, but it's a fun movie. I will say it tried to be creative. It's a very creative movie. Not every idea was good, and I'm not gonna review. I'm not gonna review what the movie looked like because the people who made this movie had like all the money in the world. So of course the movie looks good. The one thing they can't buy is acting, and I thought the acting was great. The acting, I had absolutely no problem with any of the actors, and the actors did a great job. And the fight scenes were pretty fun to watch. So I guess that's the end of it. I think I explained how everything annoyed me, but overall it was a fun movie. This review is starting to come as long as the movie, so I think I'll end it here. I really want to put this on my second channel because I really don't want this to be a movie review channel. But yeah, I think I'll end it there. I didn't describe everything in the movie because of my headache. But yeah, I think I'll end it there. Hopefully, I know not everyone watched this movie because it bombed, but hopefully you guys start to understand what I'm trying to get at. It's a very, very, very weird movie. And from what I can tell from the trailer list, this will probably be the last good movie they make. This will probably be the last good movie they make because everything they made this year is pretty shitty. And if they keep deciding that girl characters are stronger than the guy characters, my guess is everything they make, the TV shows and the movies, is going to be shit. There's nothing wrong with a strong girl character. There's a lot of strong girl characters in Warhammer. Like Savina Rain. Savina Rain's a really good character I really enjoy. And she's on the front lines all the time, and I really enjoy her. But because it's Marvel and everyone has powers, the way they do strong female characters is they just are. If a girl shows up and she says she has powers, you just have to assume that she's like as strong as the Hawk or as strong as Thanos, because any girl powers is like Thanos level now. This movie is fun, but it really makes every other movie kind of pointless. So that's really frustrating. But yeah, I thought the acting was good. It was a fun movie. Just had a lot of really bad ideas. If you made it this far, really appreciate it. You can check out my other videos if you like this sort of stuff. Thanks for watching. I think I'll end it there.